Hello comic fans, here's Earl Grey with my third video of 8 reporting the comics I found the most enjoyable in 2023. And as you figured out already, in this year I do things a bit different here in considering older comics as well. In fact, we're deep in my top 50 of older books that I've read or reread the last year. On rank 30 there's No Ticket for Death. I'm actually sure that this is absolutely not the English title, but look for yourself and definitely check out the English versions of Jacques Tardy's adaptations of crime novels by Leo Mallet. Fantagraphics has done a marvelous and very important job in making these comics available to the English reading audience. As you know my obsession with everything Tardy has done, you may wonder why this comic is so relatively low on my list. Well, it's not the only Tardy comic you'll find on my lists, and No Ticket for Death, or however the title is translated, is in my opinion not as good as Tardy's other crime adaptations. I found the pacing a bit off, or a bit too rushed maybe, and the motivation of the central opponent, so to speak, not 100% convincing. But it's still a great comic, mind you. There was the opportunity to get all the nice DC Archive editions of Plastic Man by Jack Cole, and what a great series of handy hardcovers that is. Next to my Doom Patrol Archive editions, these are my favorites in that format. Jack Cole's playfulness in terms of his panel layouts, how he incorporates the titles into his art, allegedly before Will Eisner did similar things in his Spirit comics. It's all very fun stuff. With the reprints of old comics, I tend to jump to and fro, reading a story here and reading a story there, but I've read the third archive edition of Plastic Man from start to finish, and loved it like everything else I read with that character when he was drawn by Cole. On 28 we have Matt Kindt for the first time. His name will appear 1 or 2 times more in my later lists, but today I have to praise his comic Two Sisters for his intriguing narrative, the abstract yet exciting ways he conveys his story, the clever twists that keep you guessing until the end. In fact, even afterwards for a long time, Kindt's comics definitely have aftermaths on my brain. On 27, there's my first attempt at the comics by the Norwegian Jason. I picked I Killed Adolf Hitler, which seems to be one of his classics. A tongue-in-cheek, goofy but well-paced and structured time travel story, playing with that genre in a very clever way. India Dreams by the couple of Maurice and J.F. Charles tells the story of 3 women, grandmother, mother and granddaughter, their lives and love affairs, set in the India from colonial times up to the 60s and even further. The perfect epos for some monumental Hollywood blockbuster with violence, sunsets and Meryl Streep. Fortunately, and almost surprisingly, the comic stays away from most of these kitsch pitfalls. Despite of an artwork that makes your heart melt, gorgeous watercolors, and yes, there are 1 or 2 sunsets, but it's a very well constructed, well-paced story that wraps you in and hooked. Since Anshuman, aka For the Love of Comics, put Richard Thaler on my radar, I'm hunting this book, and now I finally got Delphine. A beautiful little hardcover that goes for insane prices today. Luckily enough, I got it for an almost same price, along with Black Cat Crossing. Wonderful, idiosyncratic, old-fashioned, yet strangely conceptual and modern, warm and cool, moody and sharp, sexy and funny. Yes, everything Anshuman said about the comics of Thaler is 100% true. Finally, getting Delphine for my collection was one of the highlights comic-wise in the last year. On rank 24, there's Local, drawn by Ryan Kelly and written by Brian Wood. One of these books that needed a second read to really blow me away. Well, I liked it the first time well enough, but sometimes I'm much more able to understand and appreciate the intricacies of good storytelling when I read a book the second or third time. Ryan Kelly's drawings are quite wonderful, energetic and expressive, but what really puts this book on another level is the story by Brian Wood about the journey of a young woman through different cities or stations in her life to find herself. As kitschy as it sounds, it's a wonderful 100% kitsch-free read. On 23, there's 2 Times Frankenstein, 2 very different adaptations of that story. Junji Ito's version of Frankenstein takes some liberties with the concept of the story, the characters and the plot, delivering finest manga pulp with an almost loose underground appeal. One of my favorite comics by Ito. In contrast to Ito's version, Georges Besse stays very faithful to plot and even the structure of Mary Shelley's novel, especially the frame narrations within frame narrations that Shelley used quite extensively. Like his Dracula adaptation, Besse shines with his sublime page layouts and black and white graphics. Just a delight. If you want to know more about these 2 books and even more adaptations of Frankenstein, you may want to watch panellogy 507, 507, in which I compared a stack of different Frankenstein comics. On rank 22, there's Battle Angel Alita by Yukito Kishiro. The English 6 hardcover in a slipcase edition by Kodansha was another of my key acquisitions in the last year. I did a lengthy video about Alita. It was panellogy 491. In short, it's a quite intriguing cyberpunk story with beautiful and highly detailed artwork. But if you don't know about Battle Angel Alita, you probably have lived under a rock the last decades. A bit of the same could be said about a totally different comic. Blake and Mortimer on rank 21, being the last comic for today's video. Edgar P. Jacobs seems to divide the European comic fans. Some adore him because of his beautiful and incredibly precise ligne claire drawings. Some are just annoyed by his long-winded, cumbersome, old-fashioned storytelling. It was definitely a way for me from one side to the other. It took a while to really appreciate and enjoy his stories. And now I hunger for more of these wonderful collected editions. So now I will let you hunger for more, wondering which comics could have been more loved by yours truly than these fine books that I've showed you today. Well, see for yourself in a week. Until then, thanks for listening and watching. Goodbye.